carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by S2, our in-house subject matter expert on all topics intelligence related. Our good friend Jeff MD, author extraordinaire, CIA operative, Arizona's version of 007. And my good friend, Pastor Sean Moon. Good to see you, Sean.
Good to see you, folks.
You did something different with your hair. What'd you do?
What I do? It's a little long. It's a little long right now.
Well, I have that problem too. Every time I wash it, it shrinks. You know, that's just the way it goes. All right. Well, appreciate everybody's time tonight. We're going to dive into another story that exposes just how corrupt and untruthful the legacy media is. Seem to have been on this kick for quite a while now, but we've got some really good firsthand accounts from Sean tonight. He just got back from an amazing trip, and most of the time that he was gone was in Russia. And what he uncovered and discovered is it's like the exact opposite of what the mainstream media is presenting to Americans and has presented to Americans for many, many years. Sean, tell me exactly what was the purpose of you and your group going to Russia?
Well, we spent a couple of days in Russia, but really, during the lead up to the election, our whole church was going to all the different MAGA rallies. We did I personally did 21 MAGA rallies. And then our folks flew in from overseas to pray for President Trump and just attend the MAGA rallies to pray at the rallies. So we had people from Korea, Japan, Russia, Europe, etc., all Africa, all over the world that was coming in to pray for America to be victorious, so that communism through Kamala does not take over, and globalism, which is the international version of that, does not take over the world and send us into World War III, etc. So we were just praying, and just by the miraculous hand of God, President Trump's life was saved, and of course he was inaugurated, and is doing a phenomenal job. And just so it was kind of like going to the different countries to say thank you to all the brothers and sisters that came out and just praying with us in the United States for this historic win. And so that's kind of the reason why we stopped at Russia, Europe, and then made our way to Japan and Taiwan as well.
Absolutely incredible trip. Back to Taiwan just for a second. How come you're not allowed into China?
Well, I met the Dalai Lama in India about 20 years back.
Okay.
When I was studying Buddhism, and because of that, the CCP does not let me in to the China. But they also banned my father, who was a founder of Washington Times. So they don't like us because we're super anti-commie. We're free from North Korea. My family's free from North Korea. My father was in a death camp, etc. He's always been preaching against communism as political Satanism is what he called it. So it's really the hands and feet of Satan on the earth, and the body of Christ must fight it. And so they've hated us. The left has hated us in the West and wherever we're at because he speaks so hard against communism and centralized government.
Yeah, I think it's worth repeating that you and your brother and your family escaped communism in Korea. Your brother was, 5 years old or so?
Yeah, Justin was, I think it was 3 when he came.
3, yeah, and you were born shortly after that.
Yes.
And so your family has firsthand experience with the evilness of communism. Jeff has some experience as well working in the CIA. But before we jump into all of that stuff, actually, I want to mention one thing, because you said World War III. Did you all happen to catch that Trump, Rubio, and Tulsi Gabbard essentially talked Israel out of striking nuclear or Iran's nuclear installations last night? That probably avoided World War III. I mean,
That was
Praise
their nuclear enrichment sites.
Go ahead and expand a bit on that, S2, and then we'll jump back into the stuff in Russia.
Well, mostly what I've been catching is Iran's been trying to enrich nuclear material, and the consensus of thought is that they're not trying to build a nuclear bomb. They're trying to make energy infrastructure for their country, and for some reason, the propaganda of the news that we're talking about here tonight with Russia kind of interacts with that, because they basically have everybody ginned up to believe that Iran is building a nuclear bomb. And
Rhetorical question for you, S2. Just, I don't expect anybody to have the answer, but if anybody does, I'd love to hear it. Is it possible that Iran is being portrayed in the wrong light, just like Russia's been portrayed, or is that not a possibility?
To a certain extent, I believe so. I think it's the radicals that the people aren't taking a look at and saying that they're basically lumping everybody into one group. And the problem with Iran building a bomb is they don't have the frickin' delivery system. They could short range to Israel, but if they wanted to bomb us, they couldn't reach us. They don't have the delivery system.
Okay.
So they've got everybody ginned up because they want to make everybody believe that they're building a bomb and they're a threat to the world. When I think it's like I've said all along, and I knew Trump was going to get to this conclusion at some point, that they just want to have nuclear energy like we have, like the rest of the world has.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so let's jump into this. I've got a bunch of stuff, call it the backstory, to plug in here. And sorry, had the wrong one there. There we go. All right, Sean, tell us about this picture first, and then I've got some backstory stuff on Russia.
Yeah, those are some of our brothers and sisters in Russia, and we're at this beautiful church. I believe it's the Church of the Ascension. I can't remember the exact name, but it's in Moscow, and it is where the Russian Orthodox Church does like main liturgical ceremonies. Beautiful, gorgeous, unbelievable courtyards, and beautiful inner cathedral with gorgeous, icons. The Orthodox Church is famous, of course, for the icons. And so it's just unbelievable. I don't know if I sent you any pictures, Chris, about with the inside of the church structure, but beautiful gold inlay with the apostles. Obviously Christ at the dome of the cathedral was this unbelievable picture of Christ in beautiful robes, more ornate, obviously more embellished. But it's almost like as you look up to the heavens, Christ is looking down upon you, and it's like they had these beautiful chandeliers, beautiful. I'm just trying to kind of explain for the viewers, because I don't know how to put my photos up on the screen right now, but it was a stunning cathedrals.
Any extra pictures you want to put on screen, just text them to me, Sean. I'll kind of grab them in between talking stuff here. Okay. As you were saying that, though, I was thinking to myself, it sounds like a Orthodox version of Caesar's Palace. Of course, when you walk into Caesar's Palace and you look up, it looks like you're actually looking at the sky. Not joking or being disrespectful or anything like that. Anecdotal observation on my part, and I'm assuming you could back it up, but every picture that you sent us while you were in Russia, I was amazed at how spotless everything was. I didn't see trash on the streets, subway stations, nothing. Yeah.
It was immaculately clean, because I try to make a point of going to like where the normal folks are and like try to stay away from tourist areas, whenever I go to different country. I just want to see like the normal, the lives of people, how people are living, etc. Hit the different food spots that the local folks eat at and stuff like that. And it was clean. I mean, even in the non-touristy areas, because we had Russian brothers that was taking us around. So, we even in the non-tourist areas, very clean, very organized. I mean, I had my MAGA hat on everywhere, wherever I was going, and nobody give me any trouble. If, like you said, if I was walking around New York, I would be spit at. I would probably, I'd be definitely assaulted at some point.
Well, and let's be clear too. You're not exactly a small guy. How tall are you, Sean?
I'm 6'2".
Yeah, so not a short guy. You're a pretty big guy. So
Yeah.
before we move into the backdrop of this, one more quick question. Did you see any homeless people there?
I didn't know, because we were, of course, in the main areas, like where our hotel was at, and the train station, which is very clean. But also we went to the different places where the local folks were. So, and we didn't see any of that. There was no problem like you see in the big cities in the U.S. that is almost rampant with homelessness. And, I remember just in New York when we were doing the Trump rallies in Manhattan, we were driving the Trump truck all around. People were going nuts because we had the Trump truck. But just in the middle of the road while we're doing like a loop around the garden, there was a homeless lady. She walked into the middle of the street to urinate, pull her pants down and urinate on the middle of the main street. One of the side. It was a side street, but she walked out into the middle of the street to urinate. So I'd never seen that.
What is that?
Even 20, 30 years ago, you never see that in DC, in Manhattan, or hardly ever. But
it's a sad statement on the wealthiest country in the world, is what it is.
Oh my goodness.
Let me set some backdrops, and I'm going to go to Jeff S2 and then loop back up to you. So essentially, the legacy media's portrayal of Russia has been extremely negative for many years. This is not something recent. And more people are starting to think, like me, that that's been a fabrication on the part of the legacy media, at the behest of the globalist cabal, for lack of a better term. And I think the reason behind it, my hypotheses on this, is that we are the largest Christian country in the world, and Russia is the second largest Christian country in the world. And if the globalists can take both of us out, then they can get their dream of having a one world government. But they can't do it as long as America and Russia are active, for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, we're bigger, stronger than everybody else. We've got more guns than anybody else. I don't think that's the case in Russia so much, but Putin is call it WEF policies as much as anybody out there. I'm not saying he's a good guy or anything like that, but that's my simplistic theory of it. So I looked for information, by the way, and what I came up with was there was no definitive up-to-date study that quantifies the percentage of Western media articles and videos that portray Russia negatively. But I was able to get a couple AI engines to give me, some directionally correct information that shows there's been a significant trend towards negative coverage, particularly since 2014 and the Ukraine crisis there, the Crimea Peninsula and whatnot. And then, of course, ramped up again in 2022. And we've covered this in depth. And Jeff, I'll have you speak to it a little bit, but these areas that are being contested between Russia and Ukraine have been Russian for hundreds and hundreds of years. And when the Soviet Union fell apart, they rightfully should have gone to Russia, but I'll have you dive into that more. So there was an article I found in 2014 from Guardian that said, Western media is very critical of Russia, but it cautioned assuming that there was universal bias. In other words, that they were kind of covering for themselves by saying, well, we don't think very highly of Russia, but be careful that you don't, assume that that's universal. Whereas they were all reading from the same playbook, if that makes any sense. But there was a 2022 article I found in Al Jazeera that highlighted the accusations of, call them hypocrisy in Western media. And this was regarding Russia's actions in Ukraine, amongst other things. And they claim that 90 to 99% of Western media content is anti-Russian. But again, it's anecdotal. I don't have like a concrete study to prove that, but anecdotally, even myself, I don't think I've seen very much positive coverage on Russia other than you and Tucker Carlson recently. So with all of that being said, there were some polls that were done a couple of years ago in America, and they basically showed that 43% of Americans had a negative view of Russia in 2013, and that number spiked up to 72% a year later, and that now it's as high as 70 to 90%. So Grok came back and told me, by the way, that as of right now, this point in time, if we just go back the past 12 months, somewhere between 70 and 90% of Western media content is very negative. So again, that's not empirical or anything like that, but that's the best that I could find. So Jeff, give me your high level thoughts on the media in Russia, then S2, and then I'll come back to you, Pastor Sean.
Well, yeah, the media ignores history, first of all, especially history they find inconvenient. And an example is, Crimea. Oh, it's always been Ukraine. No, it hasn't. Crimea had been Russian, not Soviet, Russian for over 350 years. And it only became Crimean when it was Nikita Khrushchev, ceremonially attached it to the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic in 1954 as is kind of a celebration of the 300th anniversary of the Cossacks pledging allegiance to the Tsar. Okay, so it wasn't Ukrainian. It was the Cossacks, and then they aligned with the Tsar 300 years ago, 350 years ago. And so the people there were ethnically, historically, religiously Russian. And then when the Soviet Union fell apart, it became part of Crimea because they just took the old Soviet borders and said, okay, yeah, that's now your country. Well, those borders were somewhat arbitrary anyway. But yeah, we always have a negative. They always try to do a negative perception of Russia because they're trying to basically say Putin is Russia. Well, Putin is no more Russia than Biden was America.
Who was the one who defined the boundary lines, the border?
Well, it was the Supreme Soviet back in the day. But Crimea was taken from the Russian Soviet Republic and attached to the Ukrainian Soviet Republic as symbolically. It wasn't that it was ever part of Ukraine. They did it as a sop to Ukraine to kind of keep them happy. And the Ukraine goes back to the Kingdom of Kiev, which was even further back, and say, oh, all this was ours. Well, if you go back far enough, it all belonged to Attila the Hun too. So I don't think we're going to give it to Mongolia. So they look at it as it was Ukraine's last week, therefore it must be Ukraine's forever. No, not necessarily. Things happen, they go back and forth, but the people of Crimea did not want to be part of the Ukraine by and large, and when they had the plebiscite there, they voted overwhelmingly to be annexed by Russia because they're Russians.
Two things stood out to me to Tucker Carlson's visit to Russia. The first one was the cleanliness of the grocery stores and how cheap the groceries were. But the second was apparently Tucker was not particularly happy with Putin when they met initially, at least, because Putin took over an hour to explain the history of Russia. Yeah. And Tucker was like, yeah, why does this matter? But he didn't realize until he got to the end that these contested areas were really Russian areas, and that Putin is repatriating people, not just land, people who wanted to be part of Russia because they are Russian. S2, I'll let you pick it up there. Give me your thoughts on tying together the media's portrayal of Russia and what looks to be a very different thing in reality.
Honestly, my opinion is the media is just a bunch of idiots that are warmongers. That's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a valid point. And obviously the military-industrial complex wields a lot of power, right?
Yeah,
so.
I mean, there's not a whole lot more you can say about it other than there is a lot more that you could say about it if you want to go off into the weeds with it all. But at the end of the day, it's all about them being pushed by the military-industrial complex, the censorship industrial complex, and the propaganda industrial complex, and them pushing for war. Because they have to get us into a war. They've been trying to get us into the Ukraine war. That doesn't work. So now they're pushing us over towards the Middle East, trying to get us into that war, and that's not working. So now they're focusing their efforts back here in the United States again. And they're going to keep bouncing back and forth until they get something that sparks off.
Propaganda industrial complex. I'm going to quote you on that. I like that's the first time I've heard that. That's a good one. All right. So I've got a short video here, 18 seconds long, with Obama and Romney. And y'all will probably remember this as soon as I play. It's only 18 seconds.
Governor Romney, I'm glad that you recognize that Al-Qaeda is a threat. Because a few months ago, when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda. You said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back because the Cold War has been over for 20 years. Governor Romney, I'm
A question for all of you. I'll start with you, Sean. How did the Democrats pivot from that to Russia is the biggest threat in the world?
I mean, I think it's like what you said, Chris. They don't want the Christian countries to be free from their globalism and have autonomy and sovereignty. Yeah, I was so surprised being on the ground. I was surprised. I wanted to share this story with you guys when I went to the embassy because getting the Russia passport is pretty tough. I like the visa. It's you have to go to a embassy. The closest one to us was in DC, so we had to make a whole trip out to DC, like 6-7 hours to get out to DC. Leave all our guns in Tennessee, all this kind of craziness, all that shenanigans like that, and then get to DC, and there's like this. The embassy was only open for like just a couple hours on one day, so it was totally nuts, and we had all our ducks lined up, thank God. And we get in there, they have a gate, everybody's lined up outside on the street. They open up the gate, a Russian guy is there, and he kind of like brings you into this patio area, which is then there's lockers and you put your stuff in. And then there's another gate, which you have to go through. And once you're buzzing in through there, they took us, because we're foreigners, to this, to the side on the right. And while I was waiting there, we're just hanging out, just waiting. And we just see what's on TV, like, in the embassy, what is on TV. They had a kids program on TV, and it was literally about farm animals and, kids playing with the farm animals. It's like a cartoon about farm animals. It's like immediately we felt the difference in the even the children's programs. It was not like, feminism, and, there's always got to be now a gay character in the young kids programs now in America. It's just all this wokeism is in the kids stuff. But with the Russian stuff, it was like, it almost seemed like the maybe 50s, just clean, very clean program, and it was really interesting to see that. Like, we felt culturally, this is much safer for kids in terms of what they're putting out. They are definitely trying to create a safe family environment. And again, that doesn't mean they're perfect or anything, or Putin's a good guy. We always have to say that, unfortunately. But we felt that immediately.
The animal show wasn't Animal Farm by George Orwell, is what you're saying.
No, it wasn't. It was, it almost like it was just a program that was kind of centered, on a kid, and he had like animal friends that was on a farm, and it was just very clean. It was not like this crazy Powerpuff Girls or or whatever, a SpongeBob with all these crazy characters in like bikinis or stuff like that. Just like none of that stuff was on that program that we noticed. So we felt like, wow, this is way more conservative. Even at the embassy, we felt that.
That's really interesting. Jeff, same question to you. How do we get to this point of Obama making fun of Mitt Romney? And I can't stand Mitt Romney, so there's no love lost there. But how do we get from that to Russia?
Well, it's where they can get traction. I mean, you'll remember also Obama was the one that said ISIS was the JV team. Right. And then they took over half of freaking Iraq. So, he's not exactly been accurate. And I understand why people will say, Russia is a threat, because Russia has thousands of nuclear weapons and delivery systems to basically hit any country on the planet. So are they a potential threat? Yeah, absolutely they are. Does that mean they're going to do it? No, because they know that there's still mutually assured destruction. I mean, if we have one ballistic missile submarine, out there, we can wipe out most of their country. and they know that, so they're not going to be that stupid. But I think it's wherever they get traction. Okay, now we spend all this money and all this time fighting Al Qaeda. Okay, great. And then we kind of knocked them down. So what did we do next? We went into Iraq and went after Saddam Hussein. Okay, we knocked him down. Now we got to find a new war. I thought it was going to be Syria, but Syria pretty much just collapsed on itself. So they got to find somewhere else. You got to have a war to justify spending money on weapon systems. And we shot a bunch of war shots during Iraq and in Afghanistan. Those need to be replaced, and so they replaced them, and now they need to use those up so they can buy more, and they're using those up in Ukraine. The neocons in DC, there's a lot of money to be made at war, a ton of money, and there are no CPAs following those appropriations around to make sure they get spent the way they're supposed to.
Okay, so let me put a little bit of a finer point on it before I come to you, S2. So it's been revealed a week ago today, actually, that no ifs, ands, or buts, that Team Obama, Hillary, Brennan, Comey, all of these people were behind the Crossfire Hurricane hoax, and that there was no Russia hoax that had anything to do with Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin. The whole thing was just a fabrication. And I think this is kind of where they pivoted from making fun of Russia to, oh my God, Russia's the enemy, but it was all a made up lie. So S2, little bit tighter question. Why do you think they picked Russia in all this? Why was Crossfire Hurricane about Russia, not somewhere else where we already had some sort of conflict? You're on mute, S2.
I like to think that it goes back to the communist playbook, where they take two parties that seemingly are friends, but they want to turn them against each other. So basically they gin up their propaganda machine, and then they start spouting lies about one to the other, to the point of where they want to start making everybody hate each other. And there was always this conception back in the 50s, I think it started back in the 50s, that Russia was the big bad boogeyman during the Cold War. Well, if I recall, it wasn't entirely Russia that was the big bad boogeyman. It was the Eastern Bloc that was the big boogeyman. Mm. So they used that to basically gin up this whole enthusiasm that Russia is our enemy because the communists were our enemy. Well, guess what? The communists don't necessarily exist anymore in their pure form that they did back in that day. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And where I think they pivoted on that was when Obama's NSA got caught spying on Americans. Mm. They had to gin that up to take that attention away from that.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it in those terms before, but that's a good theory. I could get behind that. So, Sean, I'm going to whip through some very recent posts on X. And actually, I just want to point out to anybody who can't see the screen because they're on a phone, I'll zoom in a little bit. But this was a week ago. This article was the 15th, but it was a week ago today that the Crossfire Hurricane documents were revealed, which totally, proved that it was a hoax on the part of the people I've already mentioned. But here's my question for you, Sean. And I've got to zip through a handful of these here. So here's a post that was made yesterday. And so many Republicans thought Trump could not be worse than Biden for Ukraine and was tough on Russia first. Admin, Mueller report was right. Trump is a Russian asset. So even though the information's been released beyond a shadow of a doubt that the whole thing was a hoax, these are one after another. Here's another one posted yesterday. Russia is pure evil, a kleptocratic state run by gangsters and thieves committing genocide in Ukraine. It's unfortunate that Trump got back into power, but it's going to be up to Europe for the time being to support Ukraine's war against evil Russia. Rearm now, Europe. And the next one. Don't you hate the fact that the current president of the United States is Russia's spy and Putin's asset? Don't you hate how much control in the USA China has? Aren't you tired of all those Nazis running around America? Don't you feel bad for that tiny oppressed minority Jews who are constantly underrepresented? That's 6 days ago. Next one. And there's 12 posts here. I'm not going to read all 12 of them, but the kings of false flags. Today marks 85 years since the beginning of the Winter War, but Russia has yet to learn from its history. As long as it avoids addressing the past and present, Russia will persist as a toxic and aggressive imperialist nation. This is a couple days ago. I'll do one more. I've actually got a ton of them lined up, but I'm not going to go through them all. This one here from March. The people running Russia are a pathetic bunch who deserve the treatment they get from Western politicians. They pull ridiculous stunts like pushing revisionist nonsense about Caton, funding Polish national propaganda, building monuments to it, and apologizing profusely, only to get spat on by the same people they're trying to appease. Now, why did I waste my breath and read all that stuff? I want to know what your expectations were going into Russia were, Sean, after this is what we're pelted with, even when there's concrete evidence to the contrary. What was your expectation?
You're absolutely right. I got to admit, I had still some emotional bias in the sense that, that Cold War fear that was always, drilled into our brain to the propaganda media, zapping us with that everything. But when I saw, when we finally got to Russia, got through all the checkpoints, whatever the case may be at the airport, and I saw the signs that was in Russian, I was like, oh my goodness. My wife was there, so I was like, baby, we're in Russia now. It just seemed like this kind of surreal and crazy thing. It's weird because we got hit with so much of that propaganda that emotionally I could definitely sense that I was like, okay, I did feel some anxiety being there, even though it wasn't, backed by evidence, and that's my first time there. I'm probably more likely to be arrested doing a demonstration in front of the UN building in Switzerland, which we went to as well, than Russia, honestly speaking. Russia last year did, I think, 400 people they put in prison due to political comments that they made online. The UK alone did over 3,000 people last year due to political comments online. So that's just the UK, let alone the EU, which is also equally as horrific when it comes to a totalitarian style rule. So, but I got to be honest, I did feel emotionally, if I'm honest, I felt a little anxious, being in Russia. I was like, oh my gosh, we're in Russia, baby.
So let's just pivot off Russia for 1 second. One quick question. Speaking of Switzerland, what happened when you were in front of the World Economic Forum and you started to record a video? What happened?
Yeah. It's interesting because the World Economic Forum, we didn't know. I thought it was going to be in an open space because we wanted to just pray of the downfall of the globalist cabal. And so we went to the World Economic Forum. We did the World Health Organization. We also prayed at the UN headquarters in Switzerland, that main gathering area. And the WEF was like this. It was hidden in this almost like suburban town. And they had this small little sign that says, World Economic Forum. It almost looks like it's just a small little building, even though it's kind of a compound. It's kind of hidden in the midst of this small suburb, as opposed to WHO has got this big. It's got all the flags, international flags, UN buildings. It's like it's like a park is attached to it on the other side of the street. There's a big sculpture of a chair with 3 legs, and there's all these flags everywhere. So it's very clear. But the WEF was very hidden. When we finally found it, it was like, what is this really it? And I started filming a video and just praying for the downfall of WF, kind of rebuking in Jesus' name. And the security guard just came out immediately and chased us off the property, telling us we can't film. So we thought maybe he's going to call the police on us and maybe get us arrested to monitor what we were filming. But they didn't. They just kind of kicked us off. And so we made follow-up videos as we were walking off the property. But it was very strange. I never knew the WF kind of hidden in this kind of rich kind of suburban area on this very steep hill. It was definitely, you would never expect it to be hidden like that. But it was surprising.
Well, I mean, what surprised me was that they immediately, zoomed in on you and kicked you off the property, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they had a patrol. They had the police was patrolling that whole area constantly. So we were just doing like circles. Jericho runs around it, and just like there it is. But it's like the small little sign on this wall, and there's like it's like from that side of the hill, it looks like just a one-story tiny little office. So it's very deceiving, just like the globalists are. It's very deceiving. It's like an illusion that all of them gather there to basically to decide how they're going to wreck the world and profit off of it. But it was very surprising.
Let's watch a portion of this. I didn't have it in the SITREP, but we'll watch a bit of it anyway.
All right, folks. World economic forum is trying to destroy the entire world and bring globalism, totalitarianism to the entire world. These stupid communists, these globalists trying to wreck the entire world and have been. But President Trump is standing strong against them. So we come against them in the spirit of Jesus in the mighty name. We rebuke these globalists and the bureaucrats that is trying to destroy the entire world, trying to control the world government and their satanic pedophile cults. But President Trump is standing strong against them. We pray a hedge of protection around President Trump to bring down these fools, these demonic workers of iniquity, so that all the people can be free and have freedom and liberty. Praise God. All right, folks, there's a World Economic Forum right there, and they just kicked our ashtrays out as you're making a video. The globalist security came out to kick the dangerous MAGA supporters here. We're praying to see more of these red MAGA hats everywhere around Europe, so that they know the MAGA army is spreading across the world. And the thing that they're scared most of, but we are praying that the MAGA hats and
that's just
you, the tall Korean, you must leave the site now.
Oh my goodness!
It was so ridiculous.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll pivot back to Russia. I've got a few more of these negative posts that I want, and they're all recent, by the way. This one was yesterday, for crying out loud. What is so hard about this? Russia equals bad. Ukraine equals good. Russia equals war aggressor. Ukraine equals defending itself. Russia expansionist, and Ukraine equals nationalist. Russia equals totalitarian, and Ukraine equals democracy. What else is there to know? Shut Russia down if you're influential. And there's a lot of people out there who have just taken this hook, line, and sinker. Russia's a cancer of mankind. No country in the world causes more chaos and destruction than Russia. Russia's basically a third-rate nation with nukes, terrible criminal justice, educational and healthcare system, a bunch of poor people, and a few billionaires who run the country. And that's exactly what Schittler, Musk, Bezos, and their other billionaire cronies are trying to turn America into. Let's just stop on that for a second. I want to hear what you have to say, Sean. Did you see anybody there who resembled very poor people, not dressed well, uneducated masses? Did you see any of that?
Well, I thought I was going to see droves of starving people everywhere and bread lines and everything. Nothing, none of that. And I even sent you the video of the supermarkets.
Yeah,
which super clean, beautiful, stacked meat aisles, cheese aisles. They had Korean ramen. They had shin ramen. They had buldak, which is like nuclear ramen. They had all sorts of stuff. It was unbelievable, and we were very shocked to see all the starvation in Russia. So is what they say.
So this is the last one up that I've got on people's opinions, recent opinions on Russia. But look at this. Gee, I don't know, man. It seems more and more like Russia is the good guy who wants global peace, stability, and diplomacy. And it's interesting now that Trump's back in office that the truth is coming out. But let's talk groceries for a second. And I've got your videos coming up as well. But here's the video from Tucker Carlson. More truth about sanctioned Russia. Tucker Carlson posted a video from the Moscow store. Achin, he believes that prices in a Moscow store can turn Americans against the U.S. government. His grocery basket for 1 week cost him $104, and this amazed him because in the U.S. it is about $400. 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400. It was $104 US here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought, corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us. And coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders. That's how I feel anyway, radicalized. We're not making any of this up, by the way, at all.
So I've got your videos queued up. I'll play them in a second, Sean, but describe your perception versus Tucker's when you were there.
Well, I just want to, there was this escalator. We went to a supermarket, which is one of the kind of Walmarts of Russia. I just can't remember the name, but it's it was in the shopping mall right near the train station, and you go down these escalators, and it just opens up to this beautiful supermarket. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of Whole Food, but it didn't have any of that vibe, obviously. But it was super clean. As the video shows, it's super well lighted. It didn't feel like I was in the 80s or something like that, in some frozen time. Some of the hotels, the hotel, I would say, seemed frozen at time, like maybe in the 90s. But the supermarket did not at all. It felt like a modern supermarket that we would see in America, and had beautiful cheese aisle, beautiful meat aisle. I wanted to see the meat aisle. I wanted to see how all the people in Russia are apparently starving and are all dying. And I saw the prices on eggs. It was $1.24 for 10 eggs, and just super clean, super nice restaurant. I'm sorry, supermarket.
Amazing. So I've got your videos queued up here. Let's play them quickly. All right. First one, here's your eggs.
$1.24.
There's $1.
Yes, it's divided by 100.
Oh,
so
easy.
it's 0.85
85 cents.
85 cents.
For 10. Okay.
No,
There we are. You see that?
This half a dozen.
Oh, half a dozen.
Half a dozen.
Okay. You see that, folks? And the dangerous Russians, they're selling eggs for $1.24 a dozen.
$1.
The dangerous Russians. Dangerous Russian eggs. We got one more here.
Wow, look at this. Look at this. The evil Russians even have Korean shinran. Look at that. Oh my gosh, they have the udon and the chapaghetti. You see that? The evil Russians even eat chapaghetti.
That is just too much. So I don't know.
So inclusive.
Which direction you want to go with that? Because the first thought that came to my mind is it would go straight to a strike on YouTube.
I never thought I'd see all that Korean ramen in Russia. Honestly speaking, that's the last thing I thought I'd see in Russia. Unbelievable. So I've got more pictures from you, Sean, that I'll pull up in a minute, but I want to pull this one up and engage Jeff and S2 on this as well. So I went and I did my best to find current information, and the best that I could find, it says that something like 70 to 73% of Russians identify as Christian. Some of them are Orthodox or other denominations. 71% actually, it says, are Orthodox, and other denominations, Protestants, etc., are only 2 to 4%. So if you take the estimated population for Russia right now, 2025, it's almost 144 million people. And if you convert that to 70 to 73% Christians, you're looking at somewhere between, say, 101 and 105 million Christians. 71% Orthodox Christians is 102 million, 2 to 4%. The other one's like 3 to 5 million. So based on all of that, you've got 7 to 9% are Muslims,
and you've got somewhere around 15 to 18% are agnostic or atheists, and you have a very small group of Buddhists and Jews, each less than 1%. So, Jeff, I know that you didn't work in Russia for your career, but you touched it in a number of different ways. How homogenous are the demographics in Russia, which picks right up where S2 left off? We see we're stepping in what you laid down, S2. How homogenous is the culture there, say, compared to us or compared to us 50 years ago?
Well, it's a lot more now than it was back in the Cold War, because during the Cold War, they had what we used to jokingly refer to as the icky stands. You know, they had Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and Uzbekistan as part of the Soviet Union, and those were, you know, if they had a religion, they were Muslim for the most part. And those spun off, became separate countries, and so actually Russia proper became probably more homogenous. I mean, yeah, they still have Chechens and they still have, you know, ethnic Tajik communities and things like that, but for the most part, they are, you know, overwhelmingly, you know, what you would consider European, Christian, and even a lot of the minorities, the ethnic minorities now are Christian. You know, because that's just the influence of the culture they've been living in. And Russia is historically a Christian nation. It was only non-Christian officially from, I believe, 1918 until 1992.
When the Bolsheviks took over, in between when the wall fell,
Yeah.
because they were mostly atheists at that point.
Well, they were officially atheists, but you talk to a lot of Russians and they said, well, yeah, on paper we're atheists, but believe me, we prayed. You know, when the Germans were dropping bombs, we were praying. It's just like there are no atheists in foxholes, and there's no atheists on test day in school.
So 1970 till now, we've gone from 90% of Americans being Christian to 62%. We just did an episode with a pastor a few days ago on that particular topic. And you're saying that the exact opposite has essentially happened in Russia. They've increased numbers of Christians while we've decreased.
Yeah, and it's not so much, well, Russia Orthodox Church is the kind of the official church of Russia, just like the Church of England was the official church of Britain. And it's not so much that everybody became Christian. Well, the ethnic Russians, some did, but you know, they were already kind of closet Christians. But the parts of the country that were cleaved off into independent nations, those were the overwhelming locations for the, you know, for the Muslim populations. You know, so the Tajiks were Muslim, but they're not part of the Soviet Union anymore, and they're certainly not part of Russia.
Okay, so I just wanted to explain this picture before I go to US2. I punched into, we now have subscriptions to 4 different AI engines, and I punched in, give me an image that represents modern day Russian identity, and put this up, which I thought was really interesting. This looks like something you would see in an Orthodox church. So S2, let's back up to your comments on atheists. So are you saying that during the Soviet Republic that people would be persecuted if they expressed that they were Christian?
If you were not a Bolshevik or on board with communism, you would be persecuted. That's correct.
Very interesting. And when did that end? When the wall fell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, when Putin was interviewed after the wall fell, he was asked a question by a reporter. I don't know how they took the answer at that point in time, but they said they were trying to figure out what happened. How did you fall into communism? And basically his answer was, we forgot God.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Sean, I've got a bunch of pictures of yours pulled up. I'm going to get you to comment on them. And I think I shared this with Sean, but I don't think I shared it with anybody else. The Guardians in the Survival Dispatch member-only chat on Signal requested Sean be riding a horse with no shirt on, just like Putin. That was the number one idea that they wanted for the thumbnail for tonight's video. It would have been, now that we have AI, we could have made that happen. It's absolutely brilliant. I've got I don't know, maybe half a dozen pictures from you, Sean. Go ahead and explain this. This is you and your wife. Where are you here?
Yeah, that's right before they get into the Red Square. That's like a place where the folks were like, there's like an outside market. There's an outside like food stands for the tourists and stuff like that. And then these folks come out and they're dancing and they're super nice. I mean, they asked, where we're from, etc. We said, yeah, we're from America. And they said, oh, we love it. It's great. They're just very happy. I don't know if I sent you pictures of the mall. There was a mall that was also attached to this area. I wanted to just give people an inside view of what, a Russian mall may look like. And it looks just like a nice high-end mall. The only difference I would say was when we went to the bathroom, you have to pay to go to the bathroom. So there's a lady sitting there in front of the men's and ladies' rooms. And so you have to pay, like a buck or whatever to use the bathroom. So that was interesting. But I guess that's in the high traffic tourist kind of areas. But this is right near the Red Square.
Just out of curiosity, how clean was the restroom?
Oh, very clean. Very, very clean. Super clean.
Very interesting. I want to mention quickly for our audience, you can follow Sean on X, by the way, at King Bullethead. Of course, all one word. It's up on screen right now. And Sean has a bunch of rap videos that are pretty provocative, or many of them are provocative, and they're really good. I recommend that you follow him. He's been, how many times have you been thrown off social media now?
Quite a bit. This is our fourth channel on YouTube and stuff like that.
When we were in Vegas with you and was talking to your brother Justin said to me, Dad, my brother holds the record for being kicked off social media the most times.
Yeah, probably not the record, but yeah, they definitely have been kicking us off.
Yeah, and I should mention at this time as well that Sean's family own car firearms, Tommy gun, Desert Eagle. They make some pretty badass stuff. They got a 50 BMG now that's absolutely crazy. Sean told me he's going to send me one for Christmas this year, right, Sean? I just have to pay for the optic, right?
Yes, we got to talk to Justin about that. But
All right, moving on to the next one here. When we're done going through your pictures, by the way, I've got a bunch of questions, some of which you've already answered, and I'm going to open it up to everybody to comment on those questions. But where's this, Sean?
This is in the Red Square, right before we hit that market that we just passed with the Russian ethnic clothing folks.
Okay.
This was one of the statues that was erected to, I believe, a priest who was a martyr of the Orthodox Church. So that's like right there now in the Red Square. They have a whole monument to, a Christian martyr. So that was quite interesting.
And one question that popped into my mind when you were with those people in that previous picture, what was the language barrier like? Did you use your phone or something to try and communicate?
No, those folks, I think they had basic English. So,
Okay.
they said, where are you from? And we said, oh, yeah, you were, America, USA. And then, I talked to him like, you like Trump. We like President Trump. MAGA. And, he was like, oh, okay, Trump. And so he was just really down to earth.
That's too much. Where's this one, John?
This is the Russian the subway. I'm sure if you guys seen like the folks or film footage in the subway that I guess during the Cold War period that the Soviets made, it was kind of like their crowning achievement, I guess. They have a huge escalator that at some points in the train stations that you would go down, and I believe Bernie Sanders, when he did his honeymoon there, he said, "Wow, this is the crowning, achievement of communism," or something like that. But yeah, that was the subway. It was very clean, very clean. Still had all the historical kind of murals, up and around, and trains were very clean as well. And yeah.
Everything strikes me as clean. Even this picture here, Where's this
No.
one, John?
That's at our hotel. We were at the Marriott in Moscow, and I would say the lobby, the restaurant, all that kind of stuff was very modern. But I would say the room, it had kind of like that hotel with maybe in the 90s, you had those kind of thin kind of carpets, kind of burgundy colored carpets or some, just it had a feel of more of a nostalgia.
Okay.
And but the lobby and everything felt more like like something we would see in America.
Very interesting. Is this one in the subway as well, Sean?
Yes, that's in the subway as well. Yep.
Okay.
So you can see me with the MAGA hat running around and filming videos, and nobody had any problem.
Yeah, I mean, so when Sean sent me this, I asked him, if anybody said anything, like I mentioned earlier, with regards to his MAGA hat. He's like, not a word. Nobody even looked at him sideways. You can actually see some of the people. I think this is the video where they don't even look at Sean. They just carry on, walk right by him.
We're going MAGA in the Russian subway. We're going with the MAGA hat. All right, there's Lenin. Let's see if anybody recognizes the MAGA hat. We got a big T on there too. We got a big T. There's a Trump praying for the victory, peace, 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 peace between these countries, and prosperity centered on Christ. Let's go, hallelujah.
That just kills me that nobody even batted an eye.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'm amazed I don't see a bunch of snipers running around in Adidas pants down there.
I did see a whole bunch of tracksuits. That's so true. In Europe and Russia, they love the Adidas tracksuits for some reason. They got the whole set on.
That's too funny. All right. Next one up. Where's this one, John?
This one, that was in the, remember that initial photo where we in the courtyard in the church?
Yeah.
This was the cathedral in that same courtyard. So there's this is inside the building, I believe.
Okay, 14 seconds. We'll play the whole thing.
Oh, yes. That's inside the cathedral.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful. And there's Christ in the dome. So that was quite stunning.
When was this thing built, Sean?
I believe I can't say exactly, but I remember them talking about, I think it was the 1600s, where they had the top Italian architect that the Tsar flew in. I'm sorry, not flying, brought in from Italy to recreate kind of that kind of structure, the dome structures, etc., and build this cathedral in Russia. So it might be 1600s, 1700s, around that time frame, if my memories are correct. But apparently they brought in an Italian, the world's top Italian architect to construct those cathedrals.
Very interesting. So this one, I assume, is the outside of the same cathedral?
Yes, it's like a complex. So that was in a different part, but that, yeah, it's kind of like the same courtyard. There's multiple buildings.
Okay.
This one you see now, that one might be the one that you just saw, the cathedral inside. Yeah.
It's 15 seconds, so we'll play the video. I haven't seen a single piece of trash on the ground in any pictures you sent me previously, any videos. I got to be honest, I'm surprised at just how pristine everything is.
It's very clean. Very, very clean.
All right. So we've got a handful of questions. You've answered some of them, but I wanted to get your opinion on what did you see in terms of daily life, like people, culture, communities that surprised you? Were there any surprises?
Well, I didn't notice any of the blue-haired woke mind virus kind of folks. You know what I mean? That is very angry. You can see they're just by their face, they're just angry. They're possessed. They're just hate the patriarchy. They want to take down the patriarchy. This kind of thing. And
you didn't run it. There was like no Russian Antifa trying to beat you up because you had a MAGA hat on or anything like that.
No, I was surprised because like even at the embassy when we're on the stateside and we were like waiting to get into that second doorway, I noticed the demeanor of the Russian women was very different because they were not like this, aggressive, angry, kind of like I'm being oppressed. I hate the structure that I'm living in. I want to get rid of the patriarchy, this kind of stuff. They were super kind and they're super like almost. I felt like they were kind of almost like Asian, like almost doing like, oh, I'm sorry, I stepped on your toe, like kind of like doing a bow, like what I mean. It's like super respectful and super kind, and that was very different. They're clearly not like dominated by feminist ideology and a man-hating ideology.
That's interesting because one of our questions was, did you see anything that you felt countered the media narrative of hostility and all those sort of things? That's an interesting answer on your part. Another quick one for you. Did you see any examples of like kindness, hospitality, or community that stood out to you as a Christian and a Christian pastor?
Well, it was interesting because we were out in the cold. We just walking through the Red Square, etc., and taking all the photos. And there was this area where we could eat. And then it's the first time we had like Russian food. I guess they have like a bread, which is called like a lavash. And they have like these little crepes that they wrap like salmon in and like the caviar like they put in and some of that. So that was the first time we tried it. It was outside and we're eating. And, these the store owners, which is a tiny little store, they were just saying, oh, try this. And they were just, many times if they saw you're a tourist, of course they would let you buy stuff, but sometimes they would just say, oh, try this. It was very, there was no hostility whatsoever.
It sounds very hospitable. Yeah. So on that topic, Jeff, when you did cross paths with people from Russia during your career, what was your perception of them? Or were they just, these were typically government people you interfaced with, or did you interface with common everyday Russians?
Well, I interfaced with some government people because that's the job. But most of the ones I dealt with were scientists and people doing research and things like that. But for the most part, I found them to be just regular folks. I mean, they're no different than any American you'd run into. And when it comes down to it, people are people.
Yes.
And there are very few just inherently evil people running around the earth. Most of them are in Hollywood anyway. But
Epstein Island.
People, they work for a living. They're married. They have kids. They want to do what's best for their family. They want to make sure their kids get a good education and can get a good job. They're no different than anybody else. And they were very proud. We used to get into discussions over which country did it first, kind of going back and forth. But they were very proud of Russia and what Russia had accomplished, and they should be. Good folks, actually. I liked them.
It sounds like we have more in common with them than most people probably realize.
Yeah.
Just on that note, I'll go to you, S2. I want to hear your thoughts in general on Russian culture. But when I hear Russian officials, saying that being masculine is a good thing and, not putting up with mental illnesses where men dress up as women. And Charlie Kirk did a recent speech on this, by the way, and he said under 18 years old, most people who have confusion over their gender are girls who are tomboys and, want to be a boy, but then once you cross 18, the majority are actually men that want to convert to women. And he threw out a technical term for it of men who sexually get off by dressing in women's clothes. I just wish I could remember the name of it. And
Lumberjack.
well, I mean, I'm not a Russia expert by any stretch of the imagination. So quick question for Sean, then I want to hear your opinion as to, Sean, did you see anything like that at all? Did you see any men dressed up in women's clothes?
No, none of the insanity we we see on a regular basis here. No, I mean, no, not at all.
So as to your general thoughts on Russian culture, because it certainly seems to be a lot different than what the legacy media has programmed Americans to think.
Well, I was going to say, or I was going to say something if it came back around to me earlier when we were talking about the different ethnicities and things like that that were somewhat diverse in Russia, that the reason they don't have the problems with all of the other cultures and the multiculturalism that we have here is because they're very disciplined and they don't put up with bullshit there. Most of the Russians that I've ever known are just that way. They're very disciplined. They put their nose to the grindstone and they don't take any crap from anybody. And they're just like with the transgender stuff, the gay stuff, they don't put up with it. They know who they are, or at least they're trying to regain that sense of who they are based on what the Bolsheviks tried to do as far as revisionist history goes, and they're trying to put all of that back together, and they're not going to let anybody take it away from them again.
Well, so I got to come back to Jeff just for a second on this. Jeff, describe how restrictive the sanctions are that have been placed on Russia, because it seems like they're doing okay, and I thought that we had some pretty extreme sanctions on them.
Well, the West tried to, but they're cheating on their own sanctions because they need Russian natural gas, and Russia's primary export is oil. But the problem with the sanctions and oil is fungible. They can sell it to China, who doesn't give a rat's ass about the sanctions, which then frees up oil for somebody else to buy that China would have bought. So, like say Italy wanted to buy Russian oil, okay, they're going to decide not to. So Russia's going to turn around and sell that oil to China or India. Well, then the oil that India or China would have bought from Saudi Arabia is now available. And so, Italy buys that instead. The net difference is, not a lot. Russia sells theirs probably a bit of a discount just to get people to buy it and to get people to risk, having counter sanctions from the West. But China doesn't care. India doesn't care. To be honest, they haven't really signed on to the whole sanctions. It's just basically the United States and Europe. So they just ship their oil east instead of west.
Interesting. Sean, I got a question for you. Since the primary topic here is Russia not being what our media has portrayed them to be, did you happen to have any conversations with any Russians who were, upset at the media distortion in the West, saying that Russia's, bad people, bad culture, bad country? Did that come up in conversation at all?
Oh, yeah, I think, we were traveling with most of our, church folk. And so they don't like the constant, escalation that especially Europe was trying to do with Russia, and, basically trying to plummet everybody into World War III. I mean, I think the people on the ground feel it. And they're just like normal folks in America too. We don't want World War III. We don't want our kids to die and be shipped off to these globalist wars so that, Soros can profit. It's just, definitely they were worried because they expressed concern, especially if Kamala got in, but that they were hopeful that President Trump can work something out, and they could just get back with their lives.
So an extension on that question would be, did you witness anything that was consistent with the media's depiction of everything being under tight government control there, like a dictatorship of sorts?
Well, they did have armed security around the train stations of that, but that was due to some kind of terrorist attack that just happened. I think it was some kind of Islamist attack that just happened the previous week or something that before we got there. So that was like I guess that was mid-February. So I did see the Chechens. So I did see armed security. They had the AKs and the when you enter the mall and stuff like that. So, but what they said is this: normally it's not like that. It's just that they had that terror attack.
Interesting. Was there any one place, person, or experience from your trip that you'd like our audience to know about, or Americans in general to know about, as far as the real Russia, what you really saw?
Something. Nothing kind of stands out. I think I hit most of the points that I wanted to hit. But yeah, we felt. I actually, on retrospect, I felt much safer in Russia than I felt in Europe, because Europe is going so crazy totalitarian, and the censorship and all that, and throwing people in prison for doing a Facebook post. I mean, it's totally insane. But,
what countries, where were you in Europe other than Switzerland? Because now I want to get this image of Russia feeling safer than Switzerland or other countries as well.
We were in Switzerland. We were in just Switzerland this time. But I felt like but we were going like in front of the WHO, and these are not normal like tourist attraction places. We went there specifically to pray for the downfall of the globalists and the elitists, communists. I felt, we may get thrown in the pen here for protesting or like praying outside, because like UK, that's a crime. You can't even pray outside an abortion clinic now. It's silently. It's like, unreal tyranny.
Yeah, and let's go back to S2 on that. S2, describe what's happening in the UK in particular, with people praying in their heads or praying indoors while somebody walks by their window, and what the authorities are doing to them.
Oh, well, they're basically living in George Orwell's 1984 right now, where people are just afraid to say anything now. You have a few people that are standing up, but those people are ending up in jail. I mean, just look at Tommy Robinson, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
He's on day, I think, 171 right now of being in solitary confinement, just for exposing the grooming gangs they have over there.
So that raises a question for you, Jeff, because something would be in your wheelhouse. Aren't there humanitarian standards that we've agreed to with other nations that say you can't put somebody in solitary confinement for that many days? I have some vague recollection of some convention or something of the sort.
Well, every country has their own rules and their own laws, and every country ignores them when it's convenient to ignore them, just like we did with the J6ers. They didn't get speedy trials. They didn't get legal representation. They were put in solitary confinement. They were denied bail, even though they were nonviolent crimes. So we do it. We can't get on our high horse and lecture the Brits when they do it. It needs to come from the British people. And just like if Britain came to us and said, you can't put those people in jail, we'd probably tell them to go pound sand, and they would. And if we went and told them you can't put people in jail like that, they'd tell us to pound sand. But what we can do and what we should do is highlight it. And if they come to us like, okay, we want you to, Gab is ignoring our orders to give us all their, subscriber data, and we should say, yeah, you're damn right they will. And if you try and sanction them, we're going to sanction the BBC and something else. And so we need to call their bullshit is what we need to do. And fight fire with fire, and just say, you start going after our American social media companies because they won't censor for you. We're going to kick your companies out of the United States as well.
Interesting. So I've got one more thing. I don't know if you had a chance to see this or not, Sean, but only in Russia could something like this next thing happen. Nowhere else in the world could this happen. All right. 80-year-old grandmother miraculously survives 6-story fall onto car roof. I'm telling you, there's no way this happens anywhere but Russia. So check this out. Watch. An 80-year-old woman in Yekaterinburg, Russia, survived and walked away after she fell from a 6th floor balcony while reportedly cleaning her windows.
to show you those Toyota Priuses do not take a beating.
Like a pop can, soda pop can. This is too much. She's kind of like catching her breath. Anyway, the video doesn't carry on past that, but the story goes, she supposedly got up and walked away.
She looks like one of those that lived through the Cold War. You know, the picture that you get in your head of them wearing the dull gray dress. And
I mean, that is just too much. I mean, Sean, did you see anything like that while you were there?
That's a tough grandma. God bless her. God bless her.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing.
She's from Ekaterinburg, so she's probably been exposed to all sorts of radioactive stuff and turned her into like Spider-Man.
Glows in the dark, all that good stuff. Yeah. So that's it for chapter 1. Sean, I'd love to hear your parting thoughts before we move on.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of media propaganda against Russia, and like all the folks on the panel were saying, they want to, foment war, but praise God, President Trump is stopping.
Yeah, I agree with that. So if you want to hang out for chapter 2, we've got a dozen news items to touch on. Then chapter 3, some funny, zany stuff. But if you have to get back to your family, that's all right. The choice is yours. I'm going to play a short message from our sponsor, CCW Safe. And if you're still with us when it comes back on, we will carry on from there. Necessity truly is the mother of all invention. And there's so many successes like yours where the product didn't exist, the company didn't exist, and you had to invent it yourself to fill that void.
What we provided, even at the time when we started CCW Safe, it was really better than what most officers were getting through their unions or departments. And I, you mentioned earlier about competitors. I fully believe that whatever, all of our competitors are going to do exactly what they say they're going to do. It's just we do it a little different. We're not an insurance company or a critical response team. We're really the only one in the industry that has a dedicated critical response team like we have. And, that first 48 hours is so important to lock down. So we just do things differently.
So just a quick note, Mike is one of the founders of CCW Safe. He was in law enforcement in New York for many, many years, full career. And when he says that he believes that their competition will do exactly what they say they're going to do, if you have one of these other coverages that is sold to you as insurance, it is against law to receive insurance benefits when you've committed a crime. So 95% of the time, if you're almost ready to go to court and your attorney says, look, they're making this offer, I know you're not guilty, but take the lower plea agreement and avoid risking going to, prison for decades. The second that you sign off on that plea agreement, they now have to recover that money from you because you've admitted that you broke the law. So as I've mentioned before, for 18 months, I studied this topic. I interfaced with every company out there. There are some okay solutions out there, but none of them were as good as CCW Safe. They deploy a team very rapidly if you're in the unfortunate case of being in a citizen-involved shooting. They pay for judgments against you. Out of the box, it's $1 million if you had a civil judgment against you, but you can purchase additional coverage. And from a Christian perspective, what really drew me to these guys was the top of the line package is $47, but when you sign up, your spouse is automatically covered with the exact same coverage as you. So it's $23.50 a month. Can't recommend them enough. We do not get any affiliate money from them, but if you use the link down below, they send us a small stipend each month to help us defray some costs. Our software subscription costs is many thousands of dollars because we have all these different pieces of software we need. And it helps us a lot when CCW Safe helps us like that. But again, we don't get any affiliate money per se, but it does help us stay in their good graces if you use the link down below. All right, moving into chapter 2. First one up. The agency that silenced many of us here on X is no more. Secretary Rubio has notified Congress that he has eliminated all full-time staff positions and 100 plus contractors at the State Department's CFIM, formerly known as the Global Engagement Center, the State Department's censorship agency. S2, I got to come to you first on this. Thoughts?
Yay. It's he is him and Darren Beatty, who is the founder of Revolver News, I believe. He's the undersecretary underneath Rubio now. And basically what they've done is they've gone in and they have torn this entire agency out at the root. So this is the heart of the censorship industrial complex that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, very interesting. Jeff, your thoughts on this one?
Well, it's fantastic news. And actually, Jonathan Turley had written something about this a while ago. And he goes, these people are out of the government, but they'll find work elsewhere. A lot of them are going to Europe because they're censors and that's what they do. So they got to find someone to pay them to censor. So what's our gain is going to be Europe's loss because they're going to get stuck with a lot of these pinheads.
Interesting. All right, next one up. Democrats fighting tooth and nail to bring Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. is playing right into Trump's hands. This is turning out to be more true by the minute, 37 seconds.
It's going to resonate with people that doesn't feel like they're arguing to bring somebody back from El Salvador who they've now kind of held up as the poster child for our immigration policy. And I don't think that's where Democrats want to be.
They believe, the White House believes, just that they are following the Supreme Court's order here. They think everybody else has got this wrong and that they've got it right on the word facilitate, and the courts cannot compel them on foreign affairs matters. So they actually think they're in the right, and they're willing to fight that out, I guess, as it goes back through the court system. And as long as they are fighting it out, we're going to have days and days of Democrats, I guess, going to El Salvador to try to retrieve this guy, which plays right into their hands.
I think I might have one more queued up here. I do. So let me play this one and then I'll get comments from y'all. So AOC is now going after El Salvador's president because he won't return an MS-13 gang member. Psychopath. 32 seconds.
And we also demand the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador.
How about no?
President Bukele, if we believe in democracy, he must be returned. It is criminal that he is being held abroad. And we demand these things because we do have power in this moment. All of us do. Everyday people do.
All right, I lied. I've got one more, but it's not a video. I just want to put this up. DOJ releases documents from Homeland Security showing the criminal alien who was deported to El Salvador is in fact an MS-13 terrorist. Big kick in the face to the fake news.
Well,
Jeff,
he's also a domestic abuser.
Exactly. So,
yeah, it's like,
and a human trafficker.
And a human trafficker. It's like, this is your poster child? It's like, if this is how stupid they're going to be, let them roll with it, man.
You want to hear the kicker on this?
Yeah.
The Supreme Court did strip jurisdiction, basically vacated the orders for him to be returned.
Interesting.
The Supreme Court vacated them, and they're still continuing to try to do this. It's just, these people are insane. They have no facts. I destroyed one of these leftists yesterday on X because he came on spouting all this crap. Oh, it's human rights, blah, blah, blah. And I said, and he said, and then Trump is disobeying the Supreme Court. And I said, no. I said, here's the link to the transcript. Actually read it if you can, and then come back to me. And then after that, he came back in a couple minutes, and I said, are you really this ignorant, or did you have to work at it? And he says, well, that's okay, because I'm going to block you in a minute.
Okay.
Like, whatever.
A single tear rolls down my cheek.
So, question for both of you. How could the Democrats be so dense, and the rhinos for that matter too, to choose this hill to die on?
Ego.
Well, every hill they're choosing, okay, yeah, we don't want the government to be more efficient, so let's go after Doge and Elon Musk. We think it's perfectly okay for boys to compete against girls in sports and use their locker rooms. Hey, let's take gang members who've already been found deportable who beat up their wife, and let's go to bat to bring them back to America. Every issue they're picking, the Republicans just got to be laughing their asses off.
They are. They keep saying, "Let them speak."
Yeah.
Yeah.
What next? We're gonna beatify Charlie Manson. I mean,
Well,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
What was the quote from Senator Kennedy? We have a new way that we're going to handle the Democrats. It's called Operation Let Them Talk or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that was it.
I mean, golly, it's bad. Next one up here, rest in peace, Teemu. Teemu has officially turned off all Google shopping campaigns. They went from being a top 5 iOS app to now being ranked 64. What a brutal blow. This is obviously a big thanks to tariffs at the end of the Section 321 loophole. Teemu is no more. So I want to just make a couple quick comments before I pass it off to you guys. They are not going to adjust their prices for the tariffs until next week. A lot of stuff on Teemu is absolute crap, but there are some deals to be had on there. They are giving stuff away this week, literally giving stuff away. So, for example, if you're looking for something like an action camera, like a lower end GoPro sort of thing, you can get them for pennies on the dollar right now, but you only have a week to do that, number one. Number two, you know that, meaning our audience, that we're a really strong proponent of Trump's tariffs. Well, it hits us in the pocketbook as well. So I've lost $10,000 this week just in training opportunities for Chinese companies. So one of them was a power station company that asked me to do a 20-minute educational video for their academy on how to size up the right power station for your needs and how to maintain it, how to use it, and all those sort of things. I got an email last night and they said, we've halted all demand generation activity in America because of the tariffs. So it's hitting me personally in the pocketbook as well. And I'm still standing behind it because we got to deal with this short-term pain for long-term gain. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on Teemu?
Well, I've never bought anything from Teemu. I've seen their ads. But yeah, there is going to be short-term pain because until some of this production can be brought to the United States or it's taken to countries that will strike tariff deals with, because Japan's already talking about, lowering tariffs on our goods, we lower tariffs on theirs. And if that happens, I'm sure some enterprising Japanese company will say, well, all the crap that's China, the stuff that China's making that can't sell, we'll make it here and sell it instead. And I expect Taiwan and I expect South Korea will do the same. They'll negotiate more favorable tariff levels, and then they'll just start taking over Chinese production.
Well, then we've covered this ad nauseum. China has been on the ropes economically for a few years now. We've been predicting their implosion within 3 years, and we started that a couple of years ago. I don't know that they're going to come back from this one. Well, as soon as the rest of the world turns against them, why would we change back to China? You know what I mean? Even if they rectify things.
And the problem that China has is they would probably be negotiating tariffs, but Xi's got an ego, and he's stubborn. Well, he doesn't want to be seen as losing, so he'll stick by his guns. He'll steer the Titanic right into the iceberg. Yeah,
I refer to that as the balls bigger than the brain syndrome.
I had heard today that China, or that Xi actually did call Donald. he wanted to talk.
He called who?
Oh, he called Donald.
Donald, because L's are R's in Chinese, right?
I'm not kidding about that, by the way. I was jesting, but I'm not kidding about that. That's what I had heard today. And I also think that this thing with the Google thing, shopping campaigns, was going to be in trouble anyways, because they just found today that Google was in violation of antitrust laws.
Yeah.
Google's they haven't done the
alphabet
page yet, but something's going to happen there.
Yeah, not a big surprise at all. So moving on to the next one. Muslims in Michigan, the American empire must fall. An American in America. Effing leave then, dipshit. It's me. I'm the American in America. This is in Dearborn, 26 seconds.
And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah, they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.
So Jeff, you first, then S2. kind of interesting timing just before Easter weekend, which I've got to host Saturday night because Jeff O'Donnell had something else going on. So he's hosting tomorrow night. And Saturday night's episode is going to be on the terrorist threat to America, and especially keeping a high level of situational awareness this Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
But listen to the threat this guy is making on the cusp of Easter weekend. Give me your thoughts overall with this,
Well,
invasion.
if this schmuck is not a U.S. citizen, I mean, even if he's a green card holder, kick his ass out.
Mhm.
Put him on the first plane to wherever, or just put him on the first plane and kick him out the back when you get over wherever. And if he's a U.S. citizen, how is this not sedition? You're basically openly advocating for the violent overthrow of the United States government. Last time I checked, that was against the law. That was out of jail.
As you were saying, throw him out the back of the airplane, I was having visions of S2 creating a meme with a helicopter.
I was actually thinking of all of the people falling off the sides of the plane coming out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, another one. S2, you want to take a swing at this?
Fuck off.
Tell us what you really think, man. Don't hold back.
All right.
I'm really getting tired of these people coming out here and openly calling for violence. I'm really getting tired of seeing the thing about Epic City in Texas and nothing's being done about it. Well, they are doing something about it now.
Yeah.
But the problem is just like we've been saying for years and years and years, you keep letting these people in here, they are going to overrun us. And they have no compunction coming where they come from. They have no compunction about taking a life. It's part of their ideological makeup. Islam is not a religion. It is an ideology based on convert or kill. That's it. There is no in between. I take that back. There is an in between. You can pay a fee to the mosque to be a Christian to live in their presence.
Yeah, you got to pay a tax.
Yeah. Yeah, well said, S2. Appreciate that. Next one up, I'm telling you right now, I can't watch this whole freaking video, but Leticia James has broken the law exactly for what she went after for, and Trump did not do, and that's overvaluing real estate to essentially scam a bank on mortgage fraud, for lack of a better term. She's going to get smoked. She is going to get charged and convicted. Now, what the consequences are, who knows? But she's not going to get away with this. But I can't listen to this whole thing.
After you play this, Chris,
Yep.
I got another little surprise bombshell to drop on it.
Awesome. So this is 57 seconds. I don't know if I can make it past 20 seconds. I really don't like this person.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent.
Yeah, I can't listen to that anymore.
No, you're going down flailing.
So drop the bomb, this too.
Okay, so she has properties, obviously, in Virginia. And she has her primary residence listed in Virginia. New York state law requires that she have a primary residence in New York in order to hold office. She basically has been impersonating the AG, and anything that she has done is null and void.
Wow. That's huge. Go ahead, Jeff. You're on mute, Jeff.
Yeah, S2's right. She either has to admit to mortgage fraud in Virginia or say, I was never legally the attorney general in New York.
That's glorious.
Yeah. Either way, she's going to get smoked.
That's glorious.
Sort of documents under perjury, the blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
She said she was married to her father.
Well, yeah, because Ilian Omar goes, I married my brother. Leticia James said, hold my beer.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, marrying your brother's bad. Marrying your father's
worse.
Like, that's Epstein Island sort of stuff. So, Anyway, this Shia imam lectured the crowd at iftar dinner by York Regional Police, so Toronto. I was jailed, beaten, and tortured by the mullahs in Iran under Sharia law. I took refuge in Canada in 2011. I've seen 2 countries where Shia mullahs lecture the police, Iran and Canada. Isn't Canada a secular country? Shouldn't there be a separation of mosque and state? Sharia law in Canada is closer than it appears. I thought there might have been a video, but there's not. I'll go to you first, Jeff, on this. What this whole Sharia law thing?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to do it. It's been used a little bit in the United States, limited. 2 Muslim guys had a contract, and they agreed in the contract that any mediation would follow Sharia law. That doesn't bother me because it's not being imposed on anybody. They're agreeing to it.
Okay.
But this whole thing where, we're going to use Sharia law for this community. Well, if I'm in that community, I don't give a rat's ass about Sharia law because I'm not a Muslim. No more than you're going to tell a Muslim that they have to go to church on Sunday and pay tithe.
Right.
You can't do that either. This is going to come to a head at some point, but you got to get rid of the liberals because they agree with this crap.
Yeah, absolutely. S2.
I think our Congress needs to enact some legislation prohibiting Sharia law in this country. Period. It's illegal in Texas. Why can't we do it? Why can't we do it federally?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, don't disagree at all. So, sticking with the Islamic Republic of Canada, this is the domination shown by the jihadists in Toronto. 100+ mosques in Canada, but Hamas sympathizers choose to block the street. Look at how Toronto police cowardly stand and just watch, despite the fact they're fully equipped from head to toe. This is not the beginning of Islamization of Canada. Canada has been under the influence of malignant Islamists for years. Canada is becoming another UK sooner than you think. 20 seconds.
It's like a BLM rally.
So I know it's not chapter 3, but the first thing that crossed my mind when they were all bent over like that is that somebody needs to unleash thousands of gerbils.
Maplethorpe. I was thinking somebody needed to take that parked trolley behind them and drive it up their ass.
Yeah, you should get a herd of pigs and drive them in front of you, right?
Well,
drop bacon off the top of buildings.
There you go.
I got a buddy of mine. He's got multiple doctorate degrees. He's an MD and so on and so forth. And when he did his internship at Halifax Hospital in Daytona Beach, he said, let me tell you something, everybody's going to be very professional with you. But the second that the first person who speaks to you, doctor or nurse, leaves your general vicinity, they're telling everybody that you shove something up your ass when somebody puts something up there.
Oh, yeah.
There's no secret at all. And that's why
the x-rays to show and laugh about later.
Exactly. So anyway, moving on from there, because this is on the same topic, then y'all can comment on this. So France, 1975, 8 mosques. France, 2025, 2,600 mosques. This is what colonialism looks like. We just covered this in depth as far as France actually has the nuclear triad. They can deliver nukes, air, land, and sea. Great Britain by sea only, but both of those countries can hit anywhere in the world with thermonuclear warheads, which are way more powerful than fission warheads. And I swear to God, the next person I see on X who says, yeah, but Pakistan's a Muslim country and they have nukes, they have 10 kiloton fission nuclear warheads that are not even remotely comparable to thermonuclear. And they have a missile that can go 1,600 miles, but it can't carry their nuclear warheads because they're too big and heavy, being the old style. France and England are going to be a major problem for us in the not too distant future. You will have 2 Muslim countries with the ability to hit any target in the world with a thermonuclear bomb or multiple ones. You first, Jeff, and then S2.
Well, I don't even think this is colonization. This is conquest. This was an invasion, and they're taking over the damn country. And Britain isn't as bad because the nukes Britain has are basically our nukes, and I think we're in a position we can take them back if we need to. They can't even refuel their own submarines. They have to bring them over here because of the fuel technology is U.S. technology. But France is their system, they're completely independent. I mean, they have their own enrichment, their reprocessing, their own missile technology, their own submarines, their own aircraft.
Yeah, I want to add to this that we're not suggesting that Muslim terrorists are going to take over the arsenal of Britain and France. What we're saying is they're going to run the country.
Yeah, they're going to take over the government.
Correct. They will hold every high office in government and will have the ability to order these, weapons to be launched against their enemies. And guess who the first person they're going to point them at? It'll be us. S2, I don't mean to make your blood pressure go up, but I know this one in particular doesn't sit well with you. The floor is yours.
Well, that's if they can continue to afford the ability to build those things. I mean, right now, it appears there was an announcement yesterday that Britain just is seizing British steel back from China. They basically sold it off to a Chinese company, and Britain is going back to seize it back from China. So the problem that they have is that, as we've mentioned, they have a lot of these radical Islamists that are in their political offices where they're in a position to make decisions about things. And we have sort of the same problem here. We have kind of the seeds of it here. But it's mostly in our local governments is where we find it now. So if it continues on, it could very well turn into a problem. But I also know that there are things going on right now with the Golden Dome, the Golden Dome ecosystem. Basically, they already have the early warning detection system that Musk had already deployed up in the atmosphere, but there's other pieces to it. It's not just one piece of technology. It's an entire ecosystem. Right. So that may become a moot point if they decide they want to fuck around and find out.
All right, appreciate that. Next one up, 130 countries have responded, and we're negotiating with them, winning. Look at the look on Jake Tapper's face. The guy's such a homo, just to put it mildly. So before I play this video, it's a minute and 36 seconds long. I want to preface it by saying that Trump has absolutely played China like a fiddle. So not only are the tariffs hurting them, shutting their plants down and tanking their economy, but part of the stipulation from the Trump admin to these 130 countries is if you want to deal with us, where we drop tariffs on both ends or we come up with a fair process and value, you can't do business with China. You're either doing business with us or you're doing business with them. You can't have it both ways. And these countries obviously want access to our economy. I watched something on China Observer on YouTube yesterday that interviewed a bunch of plant owners in China who are completely beside themselves because they've got all kinds of stock that's piled up. They've got stock that was halfway across the Pacific, ended up going back to them, and they're trying to dump it, but they're not getting back into our market anytime soon. So their focus, most of them said, well, we'll sell to the domestic market. Well, the domestic market is in shambles and has been for a few years now in China, and they're not going to replace our economy. Some people don't understand just how large and sophisticated the American economy is. We'll hit 31 trillion this year. And if you converted that to say, now I think I've revised my prediction for China, by the way, from 17 trillion to 15 trillion max for their GDP this year. That 16 years, if you convert that, or trillion, if you convert that to years, is somewhere north of 250,000 years if you converted trillions of dollars to trillions of seconds. And then after that, it's, you know, Germany's 4.5 trillion, and it falls off a cliff from there. You can't replace the American market. Just
Well, Trump also closed another loophole too, because China got the bright idea, they got leaked, that they were going to try to move their goods through other countries and bring it to us, and he closed that loophole for them too. So
100%.
And if it comes down between us and China, they're going to pick us because we actually buy stuff. China buys commodities. You know, they buy, you know, copper ore, and they buy coal and all that they turn into by anybody else's products. So what push comes to shove, if you're making a toaster, China's not going to buy your toaster because they make toasters. So I have a choice between not selling anything to China or selling a whole bunch of stuff to the United States. I'll take the U.S.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just listen to this video, minute 36 seconds.
The way that I would think about it is that in the previous administration, you could sort of say, if you're thinking about it in the football analogy, is that they were running out the clock. And that what's going on now in the Trump administration is across a wide array of policy areas. We're in a 2-minute offense. And the 2-minute offense is pushing, as you've seen, the reconciliation bill through so that we get tax relief for American people, deregulation, and of course, trade policy. Now, in the trade policy, the whole point of the trade policy is to address the national emergency that we're too dependent on foreign products in the U.S., especially if we were at a time of conflict. And we're doing something about that. And the Reciprocal Act was basically, guys, if you come to the table and negotiate with us and treat us the same way we treat you, then we'll get your rate really low. And so right now, 130 countries have responded, and we're negotiating with them, and they've got their rate down to 10%. And so really, it's kind of almost a two-world system. There's a process about China, and that's very, very nascent, if at all. And then the process for everybody else. So the process for everybody else is orderly. It's clear. People are coming to town with great offers. We've got Japan, Korea, India. I was just talking to the foreign minister of India, and everything is moving forward very quickly.
All right, I'll stop that there.
okay, Donna, I respect you in the morning.
Yeah. I love the meme that shows Xi Jinping, texting saying, Donald, please answer me.
call me.
Yeah, like I say, Trump won this one for sure in a big way. Washington State instructor arrested for allegedly assaulting pro-Trump student. This is pretty crazy. Let me see. There was a video on it. I don't know if this is the one or not. Doesn't look like it, but maybe.
Go get it, bitch.
Yeah, it is. So I'm just going to play part of this, and he'll describe what happened.
Academic excellence, and is supposed to be welcoming to diverse values and ideas.
So I was walking like this, my head down.
That's why Jay Sani says he never imagined his political leanings would make him a target.
Patrick just probably hates Trump.
After a long day at work, the WSU junior says he got ambushed and jumped by Patrick Mahoney and Gerald Hoff.
Patrick ripped the hat off my head
for wearing this bright red Trump cap.
He said to me, go get it, bitch, or punched me a bunch of times on the back.
Sani says they unleashed a vicious beatdown, all caught on surveillance cameras right in front of the Coug, a popular campus bar packed with students.
Gerald also kicked me also a bunch of times too. Patrick, he grabbed my chest, I slammed it on the concrete as I was falling.
He tried to defend himself.
So I had to go throw my food at his face.
But Sani says 2 against 1 was just unfair.
And I was like, what the hell just happened?
And the melee left him with multiple scrapes and bruises.
Because of this, yeah.
Pullman police eventually found the pair nearby within hours of the chaos.
I've seen this guy campus before. Okay. I know he's like right-wing dude.
Mahoney and Hoff pretty much admitted to the allegations.
I grabbed his hat, threw it, and I said, go get it. We did grab him and bring him to the ground.
But tried to downplay the incident.
I didn't hit him. I don't think I did something illegal, right?
It's unwanted touching.
It's unwanted touching. I don't know what that is, right?
In fact, Mahoney tried to victim blame.
He wanted to fight. He got what was coming to them.
The officers didn't buy that story and arrested them on the spot.
You have the right to an attorney if you cannot afford one.
They're now facing 4th-degree misdemeanor assault charges.
See, the thing is that this country, was also built, around tolerance.
Sonny says he doesn't know Hoff, but his prior interactions with Mahoney may have played a role in this assault, since the two are at opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Patrick said, I'm a communist because the system fails people.
Sonny is a Republican and volunteers with conservative groups on campus like Turning Point USA.
Can you tell me about Patrick? He seemed like a nice dude.
Mahoney is a WSU graduate student and instructor, teaching a freshman-level political science class.
Had his beliefs and
By all accounts, Mahoney is a notorious far-left activist.
Of course, I'm going to think you are beyond insane.
Who hates conservative values and is a regular at pro-Hamas protests in the city.
Almost 30,000 Gazan civilians have been killed.
Recently, he was part of a group pressuring the Pullman City Council to pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, but that went nowhere.
To support the resolution.
Workers everywhere are rising up.
Sonny says Mahoney has strong ties to the Democratic Socialists of America, progressive pro-labor groups, and is someone who publicly touts his admiration for the Communist Party. Look at the hammer and sickle pin he's wearing.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. So if you didn't catch it, that's Washington State University.
Yeah.
And just a liberal cesspool. It seems to me, I'm interested to hear both your opinions. It seems to me that this stuff always happens in states that do not have stand your ground laws, do not have decent Second Amendment rights. I mean, if this had happened in Florida, for example, I'm not advocating violence, but if this had happened in Florida, the guy who was attacked could have shot both of them and wouldn't even be charged because he had every right to fear for his life.
Well, yeah.
Jeff, your thoughts?
There's more violence on the left than there ever has been on the right. And when they have to go back to find violence on the right, they have to go back decades, if not hundreds of years, or 100 years. You know, the KKK. Well, those are all Democrats too, by the way. Yeah, they always they do that red herring. It's Christian conservatives are the violent threat. No, they're not. It's the freaking lunatic left.
Yeah, exactly. S2.
I pose it this way. Democrats have a volume switch on their violence. Okay. They can turn it up and turn it down. The reason there is less violence on the right is because we have an on and off switch. We have the off position, and then we have the kill every fucking thing switch.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next one here. The West as we know it no longer exists, says EU boss in dig at Trump's bid to remake the world. There's no video that goes with this, but basically Europe is saying they're going to rearm themselves, not rely on us. They're going to go to war with Putin and Russia, and they're not going to kowtow to the American market, which puts them in deep, deep trouble. I see that the imports of multiple different car brands from Europe, they're no longer even shipping them to us because of the tariffs. So it's okay for them to charge massive tariffs on our stuff, but not the other way around. And they term us as being bullies for trying to get fair trade out of this. Jeff, your thoughts on the European Union's out of control?
Well, they're turning into communists. I mean, they used to be, we thought they were like us. Turns out they're not. They're more akin to what we fought during the Cold War. And ironically, Russia is more like what we wanted Europe to be. So yeah, I'm like, screw those guys. You know, if they want to be, we have very little in common. They're not a democracy. They don't believe in free speech. They don't believe in human rights. I mean, if you get up there and say, I want a conservative government in Germany, they put you in jail. So yeah, hell with them. Let them meet their own.
Yeah, don't mind me. YouTube has gone crazy, stopping messages on our channel that it deems offensive, and they're not. Winter's Fall, he said a filthy commie, and it got held for review. I had to approve it amongst other ones. So, S2. You're on mute, S2.
Okay. Fuck the EU and fuck NATO.
And the UN. Don't forget the UN.
Well, that's part of it. But yeah, all of these people that want war all the time, yeah, screw them.
Let them fight it.
Yeah. Well, be careful what you wish for. You may just get it, right?
Yep.
So that's it for chapter 2. I want to share something. Check this out, Jeff. Rumble is severely curtailing creators who don't use their Rumble Studio, which allows them to inject even more ads, which is out of control. And we're not going to use it. We use StreamYard because we blast out the 8-9 platforms a night. But we somehow got past the suppression last night. We've hit almost 30,000 views on Rumble. So I think that's probably the best we've ever done on Rumble. And we only have 7,800 subscribers. If you're watching, you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the like button, share. We certainly appreciate it very much. But here we go into chapter 3. The New Crusade, American Catholic cartoon from 1949. Propagation of the faith, prayer and sacrifice versus hordes of communism. It's ironic that you can go back 75 years and it's the same thing that we're fighting every day, right, S2?
I saw something today. There was a meme that somebody put out that said there are more young people turning towards Catholic or becoming Catholic now than ever. And then somebody else said right after that, imagine what happens if we actually have a Catholic Pope.
That's a true story. Absolutely true story. All right, next one up. What about the Crusades? The Crusades were launched after 7 centuries of constant Islamic aggression. They were a legitimate response to Islamic violence, meaning the Crusades. The Crusades were good and holy. So in today's context, I believe, I won't play the whole video, but I'm trying to remember what the exact topic was of this. It caught my attention when I read it.
Christianity comes peace. No, I'm not. I'm saying with Christ comes peace. But then the question was, what about the Crusades? So let me answer that directly. The Crusades were launched after 7 centuries of constant Islam.
I remember why I put this one in now. I've had some interesting conversations with our friend Velcro, and he's very adamant, and I agree with him, that the Christian Bible doesn't say that you can and should not ever engage in any type of violence. It actually says you should stand up for yourself. But somehow we've got this watered down, distorted version of Christianity in America, which says you have to be hands off on everything. Apologize for the music in the background. I'm going to play a little bit more of this because his comments are good.
Aggression. Before the very first crusade was launched in 1095, Muslims had invaded the following Christian lands. They had invaded Christian Syria, Christian Jordan, Christian Palestine, Christian Egypt, Christian Algeria, Christian Libya, Christian Morocco, Christian Portugal, Christian Spain, Christian France, Christian Sicily, Christian Turkey, Christian Armenia, Christian Italy, all before the First Crusade. The Crusades are a legitimate response to Islamic aggression and Islamic violence. I don't need to hear any lectures about the Crusades from people who support Islamic colonialism, Islamic imperialism, Islamic dominion, and Arabization.
So I'm going to stop it there. Like I said, it's unfortunate that they put that music track in the back end, but his message was good. S2, I'm going to go to you first. Just general comments on the Crusades.
What did all of those countries that the Muslims invaded have in common after the Crusades? They all had some sort of form of national socialism or communism imposed upon them.
I did not know that.
And slavery.
Yep.
I knew that. Jeff, you want to add anything to this?
No, he's absolutely right, though. Everyone talks about, oh, we were so violent towards the poor, innocent Muslims. No, we pushed back after they pushed for years.
And they're pushing in our country right now.
Yeah, they're doing it again.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's happening around the world, right? In Syria, but here's even Nigerian Christians refused to give up their faith after Islamists burned their church to the ground. Over 18,000 churches and 2,200 Christian schools have been attacked or destroyed as thousands of Christians have been massacred within the last few years in Nigeria. 41 seconds. So the gist of this is, and there's nothing particularly educational here, but they're sitting in their church after it was attacked and burned down. That's the only place they've got to gather, essentially. All right, next one up. Okay, so we're in chapter 3, so we have to have some funny stuff. This is freaking funny. I sent it to Pastor Sean earlier today. He laughed and he said he could absolutely corroborate that this is the true effect. So how to distinguish Asian languages, 43 seconds.
How to distinguish Asian languages. Again, Mandarin Chinese sounds like spaceships getting shot. Vietnamese sounds like cranky rubber bands. 이렇게 제 각도기 어떻게? 하루 다른 비빔밥이랑 도시락을 다 갈았어. I sounds like a robot with arthritis. Japanese sounds like a dramatic keyboard. Filipino sounds like a Spanish motorcycle. Ang problema ay bawang, pero gusto kumain ng buto. Dapat ba tayong lumipad ng bisikleta? Prong, prong, prong. How to distinguish Asian languages.
Oh,
you know why they sound like that? Because they're riding these motorcycles over dirt roads with lots of bumps.
Yeah. Oh my God. So this next one, I hope this is parody, but I'm not sure that it is, to be honest with you. This might be legit, not an act.
Found in his room?
What?
I found this in John's room.
Okay, all right. I
Did
think
you know he was doing this?
let's calm
Freaking
down.
ratchet.
Did you know our son is doing this?
Let's
Who's
calm
he hanging
down.
out with?
Calm down. We're gonna talk about it with him. Honey, do you know what this is? You know what that is?
Yes.
It's a wrench, honey.
This is parody.
You put a wrench in a bag. You wrote evidence on it. All right, I gotta go back to
Look
work.
like this. What?
All right, can you put that?
That's parody.
I sure hope it is.
Nobody's that stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Trump does 2 a.m. press conference aboard Air Force One and roasts Biden. Says, I'm always available. 27 seconds.
People requested. I'm always available. Think Biden would do it in the morning? He would do it in the morning. I thought it was good. I thought they were over it. Have you ever seen that before? Have you ever witnessed that? First thing. Those are seriously tough people.
That's freaking awesome. 2 o'clock in the morning. So here's a question for the ages. What happened? How did we go from this to this?
No kidding.
Is the one on the right even a woman, or is it just like some dude who thinks he's a woman?
That's a Pat.
Yeah, I know. You're not sure.
And so all these, figures that are coming out, figurines, of course, it's not real, it's AI, but there's Tampon Tim on his stolen Vower. He even comes with a tampon, comes with it in woodland camo.
Looks like a butt plug.
Well, in his case, that could be it. Here's the politician version, Tampon Tim, and he's just got a plain white tampon, but he does have his blue hair with him in this one. So there's some funny stuff going on with these figurines. Next one up, I'll take a side of fried rice and egg roll. And yet another cruel blow to China. General Tso's chicken to be renamed General Don's Oriental Chicky Nugs. Oh, I love chapter 3. Mark Carney doesn't like large American online platform because of mean words. He wants to ban X 33 seconds. The new boss, same as the old boss, just another WEF clown.
Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms.
Just fags and retards.
And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. And today we're announcing our plan to fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure, and strong. A plan to make Canada secure, to make Canada strong.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you going to do? Make Canada strong? Okay.
Yeah, by banning X. And, you know, anybody who says, you know, harsh words. This is freaking funny. All right. Years ago, my mother-in-law began reading The Exorcist. She said it was the most evil book she ever read. So, in fact, she couldn't finish it, took it over to the beach and threw it into the ocean off a fishing pier. I went and bought another copy, ran the faucet over it, left it in the nice evil drawer by her bed. My father-in-law said that night was the first time she ever screamed and fainted. I'm going to hell, but I'll go laughing.
That's a good idea.
There was another one that came up like that too yesterday about this girl's next door neighbor raises rabbits, and they found a rabbit in the backyard that looked like it was dead. So she was like, "Oh no, what am I going to do?" So she takes the dead rabbit over and puts it back in the cage. Oh. and then she hears the screaming coming from the next yard, and she's like, "What's the matter?" She said, "This rabbit died yesterday. We buried it and it's back."
Oh,
that cemetery.
Oh my God, that's freaking funny.
Turns out their dog had dug it up.
Wow, that's funny. All right, from Tim Burkett. Oh, that's the truth, dadgummit. On CNN, Tim Burkett says Congress is in bed with lobbyists, and Jake Tapper says in some cases, literally. 1 minute, 14 seconds. Probably won't play the whole one, but
party has not been in favor of tariffs.
That's correct, but I think you're seeing a shift in that. But we have a short memory of tariffs. If you remember, I'm a motorcycle guy. Harley Davidson was about to go under, and President Ronald Reagan boldly stepped up and said 1,000cc motorcycles and above that the Japanese are dumping on the American market cheaper than they can produce.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna stop that by putting
But that's targeted. That's a targeted tariff.
Yeah, but China, but it's past that. And if you think Congress is going to go along with any of that, because Congress is in bed with K Street lobbyists. Let's just be honest.
Sure.
They're
in some cases literally.
Literally.
Oh.
And that's why.
And the truth comes out.
Yeah.
Truth that we've known for a long time. All right. This next one is freaking hilarious. Why is my kid squaring up to a sheep? 15 seconds. Oh, that's pretty comical. Oh, we got another figurine. The Jasmine Crockett action figure, 3/4 of an inch long eyelash, a wig, and a dictionary or a book on how to speak hood. All right, next one up. I think firearms dealers should sell guns by mail without checking photo ID or verifying signatures, just like mail-in voting.
No shit.
Works for me. I'd buy several.
Yeah. All right. Over the last few months, we've come to a realization that should have landed much harder. NGOs weren't just adjacent to government. They were the parallel government. We were shocked. I was too. But looking back, it's exactly what you would expect. NGOs operate outside the chain of command. They answer to no electorate, no oversight, no public mandate. They can push any agenda they choose without accountability. So the real reason isn't how this happened or even why. The real question, pardon me, is why were we surprised? The moment Biden took office, the plan was already in motion. NGOs had the infrastructure, the logistics, the funding pipelines, everything ready to go. They didn't need permission. They just needed power. And when they got it, they had it all set up from day one. Overnight, we were flooded with illegal immigrants under the cover of a coordinated strategy that had been waiting in the wings. I've been acting like this was some secret operation pulled off behind our backs, but it wasn't. I wasn't deceived. I just failed to see what was right in front of me, because if you wanted to carry out a bloodless coup, this is exactly how you would do it. So some of the masses are finally waking up. Either one of you want to weigh in on that?
You're right.
I'll take that as a no.
Well, Data Republican just couldn't talk about it because she's deaf and dumb.
Right. Okay, so next one up, 200 plus soldiers, won championship, countless rounds fired. This is the 2025 U.S. Army small arms competition where skill meets steel.
Stand by. Fire.
Let's go faster.
Yeah, you wouldn't see any of that stuff over the past 4 years, though, would you?
No.
We got pride returning. I just thought this was a cool picture that Doug put up here. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he chose for his inheritance. Psalm 33:12, one nation under God, which used to be a pretty common thing, right? All right, next one up, and we're almost at the end. I think we've only got 2 left. It's over, Trump. Gen Z is here. This gets so much worse the longer you watch it. Yes, it does. A minute and 30 seconds. We'll probably watch the whole thing just because it's that ridiculous.
Oh, U.S. government of America, you've made a big mistake. You think you can take away our app? Well, we are the most powerful generation that there ever was. We are Generation Z. We won't let TikTok fall. We will rise above it all. We will save TikTok. Time's running out. Can you hear the clock? Joe Biden,
Before I play the rest of it, we haven't done any audience polls tonight. If you think this kid does not have 1 ounce of testosterone in his body, put the number 1 in the live chat, whatever platform you're on. If on the other hand, you think he's, a masculine subject, put a 2 in the live chat. 1, not an ounce of testosterone. They're already rolling in on YouTube.
Not even a freaking nanogram.
I'm protesting having to listen to the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm with S2 on this.
Well, just for that, we're going to go for at least another 10 seconds.
You're an ass.
You want us so bad.
Chinese army is quaking in its boots.
So, all right, I'll cut you a break. I'll fast forward it to the last 10 seconds.
Jojo Siwa. Brittany Borowski.
What the fuck is he saying?
Welcome to the end time.
He's saying, welcome to the end time. You didn't catch that? All right. I see a whole bunch of ones. Lower class citizen got sanctioned by YouTube for saying chode. Got to approve that. So this one here is 1 minute. I'm playing the whole 1 minute. This is the last video of the night, and it's a good one.
So you say. You thought the last one was too.
Hold on a second. We got a technical issue here I got to fix quickly. Apologies. All right. Sorry for that. Here we go. Let me back it up a bit.
Yeah. You got a lot of work to do? Yeah. Got water bath, pick stuff up, pick sticks, chairs, all kinds of stuff up. What about the chickens? You gonna feed them?
Yeah.
You do? What about the eggs?
Yeah, I'll check. I'm gonna check them. I'm gonna check the mail.
Well, I already checked the mail.
Okay. Any?
Yeah, we did get a few things. Bills.
Okay. I'm gonna one over there and water the grass over there. I'll be in the time 1. Okay.
What time?
1.
1? Well, it's like it's 5:40 right now.
Anyways, I gotta hurry and pick some sticks up and water the grass.
All right. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
It's like 5 going on 50.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Some funny stuff. All right. So that is it for chapter 3 tonight. Just a quick reminder, if you can go to patreon.com/survival dispatch or survivaldispatchnews.com and sign up as a guardian, and $9.99 a month or $95 a year, you get 2.5 months for free. You get access to SDN Aftermath every Saturday morning. These are private webinars for guardians only. Last week, we covered how to prepare your home defense plan. This week, we're covering alternative communications. You also get access to our private Signal chat, which has a massive amount of information going through it. So you install Signal on your phone and send an email with your phone number to support@survivaldispatch.com. We'll get you an invite. You also get, exclusive content, behind the scenes content. You get our 228-page essentials guide for free, which normally sell for $9.95. And next week, by the way, I'm going to offer the entire catalog. So that's 3 dozen SDI e-magazines. So that was the old Survival Dispatch Insider. And it would cost $360 to buy all 36 of them. And we're going to be promoting it next week. For $19.99, you get the entire collection. If you had nothing else but that and the shit hit the fan, you would have more than enough information to survive. And why do we have Patreon and Substack? Because I don't trust any of the platforms. So if Patreon nukes us, we've still got Substack. If Substack nukes us, we've still got Patreon. It's more likely that Patreon would knock us off than Substack. But anyway,
we got Liberty Club too.
We have Liberty Club too. As well. So homework wise, what can our audience do in light of the main topic we discussed, which again is the lying mainstream media portraying Russia in a false negative light? Number 1, spread the truth by sharing this video. Number 2, spread the truth by sharing our channels. We are highly suppressed, 1, because we don't toe the line with the official narratives, and 2, because we've published over 700 gun videos over the years. 3, speak out when you see Mockingbird, Russia bullshit. Challenge the source to prove their assertions. Do your own research and share anything interesting you find with us. I get tons of emails from y'all, and I appreciate it very much. And support political candidates who espouse the truth and not easily disproven false narratives from the global cabal. Jeff, your thoughts on how people can fight back against
everything you said, but be skeptical, do your own research, don't take anything at face value.
True story. S2?
The only one thing that I have to add, I have a couple of things to add actually. If you have any concerns about some of the information you're getting, I highly suggest that you go back and you try to find the proper history of these places. So that way you have the information that you can compare to what people are saying now. And the second and last thing I'll add is that when we're talking about things in terms of Russia and Ukraine and things of that nature, understand we're talking about the differences between men. We're not talking about the differences between the peoples of those nations. That's something very important to take to heart.
Yeah, well said. That's definitely a good reminder. All right, S2, do you happen to have the
yes, I do.
Question handy?
Yes, I do. Okay, here's your scenario. The Carter family, a Christian household of 3, lives in a small city where rising tensions over local political issues have sparked protests that turned violent one evening. While walking home from a church event, James and his wife, Rachel, along with their 15-year-old son, Noah, are caught in a chaotic street scene. The small group of agitators, unaffiliated with the protesters, begin harassing passersby, and they target the carters, cornering them in an alley. The assailants, armed with makeshift weapons like pipes and knives, demand the family's belongings and threaten physical harm. James, a concealed carry permit holder, has a firearm but hopes to avoid escalation. Rachel and Noah are terrified but praying silently for guidance. The family has some basic self-defense training and a small emergency kit with a flashlight and a whistle, but they're outnumbered and need to decide quickly whether to comply, attempt to de-escalate, or defend themselves to escape the danger. The question is, in a scenario where you and your family face a violent assault during civil unrest, how would you reconcile the Christian principle of turning the other cheek with the duty to protect your loved ones from harm? What specific preparations, such as self-defense training, situational awareness, or spiritual practices like cultivating peace under pressure, would you implement to ensure your actions reflect Christ-like compassion while prioritizing the safety of your family? Wow, that was a long one.
It was. Jeff?
Well, nothing against religion, but my first duty is going to be to my family. If you turn over everything to these thugs, there's absolutely no reason for them not to beat the living crap out of you anyway. So I think I would pull my weapon, I would brandish, I would find the most aggressive one in the group and say, push comes to shove, you get shot first. And then let them reassess their situation.
Yeah, I would have a code word. We've discussed this before, like avalanche. And the second I say avalanche, my wife and child are going to run that direction while I'm going to stand my ground, and I'm going to train my pistol on them. And if they come at me with their weapons, then I'm going to stand my ground. End of story. Yep. Yes, too.
Stole my thunder.
Well,
that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, well, I think it's not necessarily stealing thunder as much as it is the right thing, the logical thing to do. But I suppose we should throw in there that for people who haven't practiced shooting with an elevated heart rate and don't have decent firearms training, you could end up being killed yourself. And I'll just a quick refresher for our audience. 70% of Floridians who are killed by gunshot wound each year who do not commit suicide are killed with their own weapon. The bad guy takes it away and shoots the person. So just use that as a good opportunity where you should get professional training and practice. These are
you will never learn those things at a range.
Right, exactly. And S2 would know. He provides training every single week to people. And Jeff and I both participated in many training exercises. As a matter of fact, we're going to be back at WAFT next month where our families train. We're just working out the logistics on getting some content done there. I will say Saturday morning aftermath sessions, we've got 8 weeks planned out in front, and it's all what the Guardians ask for. Each week we fill in, the next one that would come 8 weeks away. We are going to be covering this type of scenario as far as what your options are. How do you train? What's the right training? All that sort of stuff. And again, you get that when you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch or survivaldispatchnews.com. Sign up as a Guardian. The aftermath is a big deal on Saturdays. The daily SITREP is a big deal. We've issued 3 retractions out of 461 episodes. So we pride ourselves on providing a truthful daily situation report. And our signal chat is off the chain, like off the chain. I got a text from Brad Wozni a couple days ago. He's like, man, I read it. I was all caught up. I went to bed. I woke up in the morning. There was like 964 new messages.
Wait do you see what I'm getting ready to drop out there shortly.
Right. Well, and to see it, you have to sign up as a Guardian, $9.99 a month or $95 for the year, Patreon or Substack. So I've got a really cool video here. For the life of me, I can't remember who pointed me at it, so apologies. 73214. That was my high school locker combination in 1983. Introduced me to somebody, asked me what their name is 5 minutes later, and I can't tell you. So anyway, pardon me. This song is Outlaw in the USA. Jeff O'Donnell will be back tomorrow night. I will be back Saturday night. John will be here Sunday. I'll be back on Monday. But if you could please like, share, comment, subscribe, we would appreciate it. God bless America.
Hoorah.